Hare Krishna, everyone. So today we spoke about the beautiful story of Radharani on occasion of Radha Ashtami. And if you are interested, you can visit pragmaticgita.com and you will find the complete story there. And I think now we can continue and we can start talking about the next set of shlokas from the Bhagavad Gita. So let us start our Bhagavad Gita session. I will play the shlokas. Or I think we spent more time than anticipated. So maybe I will just start this session. I will tell you the shlokas that we are going to cover. Today we are going to cover shlokas 2.25 to 2.30. Another set of very powerful shlokas. So I may just directly start today and save some time. So let us look at the context again. Let us recap the situation, the sacred moment in Kurukshetra. I'm trying to give you a pictorial representation so that you can be in Kurukshetra and you can then have the right context and then enjoy the journey along with Arjuna. So imagine that you are in Kurukshetra, the sun is climbing over dark shadows and the energy of all the warriors, the metallic scent of all the swords and all the other astras, and it's a very grim environment. It's a grim situation, and there Arjuna, the great warrior, is kind of frozen. He is not able to act. Analysis paralysis, and we spoke about that. Prapancha, so many things going on. In this midst of all of that, Krishna is still smiling. Sri Krishna is still smiling, and now he's trying to explain to Arjuna why he should not be in such a situation, why he should not grieve, why he should not be so troubled. And this set of shlokas, 25 to 30, they are very powerful. They talk about the nature of the soul, and they will help all of us become fearless. So it's very important. So Krishna is beginning this part of the Bhagavad Gita. He begins by presenting the soul through three very profound attributes. So it is Shloka 2.25. You can read it yourself later on. And I'm going to read it not the way it is written, but I'm going to read it in a simplified manner. I'll break the words into smaller words so that it is easier for us to understand. So Sri Krishna will say, or he's saying that avyaktaha ayam, achintyaha ayam, avikaryaha ayam uchyate. Tasmat evam vivitva enam na anushochitum arhasi. So see, there are three things called here. Avyakta. Avyaktaha means unmanifested or invisible. Second is achintyaha, unthinkable or inconceivable, the second attribute. The third attribute, avikaryaha, which is unchangeable or immutable. So I'm giving you three pairs of words. Whichever pair or whichever set of words appeals more to you, use it. So one set of words is unmanifested, unthinkable, unchangeable. The other set of words or attributes we can use is invisible, inconceivable, immutable. I'm giving you both pairs because some acharyas have used the first version, some have used the other, but the meaning remains the same. Like for example, guys in software industry, for them immutable is easier to understand than unchangeable. So this Atman, Krishna is saying, those are the three main qualities. So he says, that is why you should not grieve, Arjuna. So let us dive a little deeper into these aspects. Avyaktaha, unmanifested. So when Krishna is saying the soul is avyakta, he is pointing to something that is beyond our sensory world. See, our eyes, they are a manifested entity. I hope that makes sense when I say they are manifested entity. Because you can see your eyes. Eyes are manifested. So they are created using material energy. So if your instrument is created using material energy, how can it measure or perceive something which is much higher or which is much subtler? is the question. So that is the reason when they say soul is avyaktaha, because we cannot see it using these eyes. A lot of scientists, they have tried to prove the existence of a soul, but again, science is the full word is material science. That is why it is called as material science, because they are dealing with material energy. So they try to prove the soul's existence using material experiments. So this, you can find it out. You can search for it. Apparently, there are some scientists who tried to put a dying person inside a sealed glass cage. The glass cage was completely sealed, so nothing can escape from there. So their theory was, when the man dies, the soul apparently has to escape, and because the glass case is completely sealed, when the soul tries to escape, it has to make a crack somewhere in the glass, or a hole or a crack or something. And of course the experiment failed, because we have already discussed earlier that the soul is so subtle. It is subtle, and the glass and everything is so gross. For example, right now most of you are sitting inside your own homes or offices, and how is the like some of you are wearing wireless headphones. How is the sound reaching your ears? I mean, can you block it using something material? You cannot. That's what we discussed in the previous session. Something which is more subtle cannot be controlled or destroyed using something which is less subtle or gross. Just like that, a soul is so subtle that you cannot expect it to be confined by a material enclosure. The second aspect is achintyaha. You cannot comprehend, you cannot perceive, inconceivable. Srila Prabhupada said something very profound. I heard this many years ago. He said that if you try to conceive that which is inconceivable, then you are left with only your conception, not the truth. It takes a lot of introspection to completely grasp this fact, but that is what we say about soul. See, at the most you can talk about theoretical aspects. That's what we are trying to do in Sankhya Yoga. We can say that the soul is so small, the soul cannot be cut, the soul cannot be dried, the soul cannot be this, soul cannot be that. Okay, but have you still got an idea of the soul? Somebody gave a very beautiful example. They said that it is like looking at a map. Now the map will tell you everything. Here is a road, the city has this kind of houses, this is a mountain, this is this. But have you really experienced the city? No matter how much you study the map, will it be the same as you actually living in the city? That is how they are explaining the soul. It is achintyaha. It is only through direct experience that you can completely understand the soul. When we say soul, we are also talking about God. It is similar. The third attribute is avikaryaha. Immutable, never changing. Anybody remembers the word Krishna used for something that never changes? Everybody is looking. It is not out of syllabus here. We discussed that. No, I'm asking something that does not change. Yeah, I see people are entering the answer here. Okay, looks like Purvaji wants to say something.
Purusha.
Okay. Yeah, Purusha is the name given to that supreme, but you are right. And the term used for something that never changes is Sat. That is Sat. Something that always changes is Asat. So when we say the soul is immutable, we are saying because that is Sat. That is why another name given to God is Satchidanand. Sat, Chit, Anand. It starts with Sat. See, you will be surprised to know that even during Krishna's time, there were people who would argue that there is no such thing as a soul. I mean, you would think that it is only modern scientists who have that kind of posture, but even during Krishna's time, there were such people who would say that there is no such thing called as a soul. They used to be known as Lokayitikas and Vaibhasikas. That was the name given to them. So because such people existed, now Krishna takes a very logical stance. On 2.26, Krishna is telling Arjuna, Krishna says, Arjuna, if you think that the soul also dies with the body, then also you don't need to be worried, because death is anyway certain. So it's a very deep logical statement given here by Krishna. You can read 2.26, where Krishna is saying, if you think that the soul is subject to constant birth and death, oh mighty armed Arjuna, even then you should not grieve. See, the philosophy that I myself totally support is, if there is a solution to your problem, then there is no need to be overwhelmed. And if there is no solution to your problem, then there is no point in being overwhelmed. So at the end, the feeling of I'm feeling overwhelmed, it is needless, it is pointless. So in the context of these verses, if the soul is eternal, if the soul never dies, then you don't have to be worried about death. But if the soul is not eternal, if there is no such thing as a soul, then also there is no point in worrying, because you know that death is anyway certain. It is going to come one way or other. So what does that worrying give you? That is Krishna's very logical take on this. So that is where he comes in 2.27. He says, death is certain. For anything that was born, there has to be death. And for anything that has died, there has to be birth. The second aspect we usually don't put a thought to. But that is what makes it a complete fact. Half of the fact is that anything which is born has to die. But the other half is anything that dies has to be born, because it's a cycle. Therefore, don't lament over the inevitable. That is Krishna's strong message here. So Krishna is saying, please get out of this body consciousness and get into soul consciousness. And that is where the beautiful word is used, sarva-gata. So in Vedanta, the soul is described as sarva-gata, which is all-pervading. It exists everywhere. So at least theoretically, the belief is, that even everywhere means not just, they're not talking about just cities and countries and villages. Everywhere means pretty much everywhere in the universe. So at least theoretically, the belief is that even places where we think there cannot be life, like places like the sun, for example, the Vedanta theory is life exists there also. We just cannot perceive it. We just cannot comprehend. But life exists even there. Like there are some organisms called as tardigrades. You can write it down and you can do a search later on. It's a very interesting thing you will find out. So these tardigrades are like microorganisms, and scientists have documented that they are able to survive even in deep space. They're able to survive even without any oxygen. They're able to survive in extreme cold temperatures. They are able to survive even for like thousands of years. Like they go into a state that looks like death, but as soon as the conditions become favorable, they spring back to life. And this is something available on Earth, and scientists are still wondering how is it possible. So, but this is what Vedanta has already said, that the soul is sarva-gata. So life forms are there everywhere. We just can't see it. And then Krishna talks about cosmic rhythm. In 2.28, he says, "O Bharata, all created beings, they are unmanifest, and then they come to birth, which is called manifestation, and again they become unmanifest." He says it's a cycle, it will keep happening. So what is the point in grieving? So please don't get attached to this physical manifested aspect. It is a very limited perception of who you truly are. And then in 2.29, Shri Krishna says, Ashcharyavat pashyati kashidena Masharyavad vadati tataiva chanyah. So what Krishna is saying is, some see the soul as amazing. Some describe the soul as amazing. Some hear the soul as amazing, while others, even on hearing, cannot understand it at all. I mean, see, we cannot blame Krishna, right? Because even now, we hardly have a fraction of the understanding of a soul, although we have used so many words already, that is the nature. So Krishna is also trying all these different ways of explaining. And so Swami Ranganathananda is another very great Advaita scholar. And he says that the soul, which is our own higher self, is the ultimate teacher and acharya. What is the context for that is, in the Katha Upanishad, it is said that a teacher who is self-realized is very rare, and the opportunities to hear instructions about the science of self-realization is even rarer. And if by great good fortune the teacher is also there, the opportunity is also there, then a student who can comprehend this topic is the rarest. You see, so very categorically they have said, net, how rare it is for this to happen. The teacher bhi hai, teacher is also there, the lesson is also there, and the student is also there, and the understanding is also there. It's like extremely rare. So if some of us are understanding even a little today, we are part of that, 0.001%. So Ranganathananda, who is a great Advaita scholar, says that our own higher self is the ultimate teacher and ultimate acharya. And if we have to become eligible to realize this truth from that acharya, all we have to do is try and become the right student. See what happens, all of us, all the time, we feel that if I didn't understand something, that means teacher kharab hai. The teacher is not good. Teacher doesn't know how to teach. In Vedanta, the teaching is, student has to become better. When the student becomes the best, then he can learn even from water, he can learn from the sky, he can learn from the birds. So our goal should always be to elevate ourselves, purify ourselves more and more. And how to elevate ourselves? That is pretty much the teaching of all of Bhagavad Gita. How to purify yourself and how to elevate yourself. Part of that elevation comes, what is the first part? First part comes acknowledgement. Do you even think there is a problem? Do you even think there is something we need to learn? Or do you think that I know everything? So I will talk about a small story from the Mahabharata. So there is a small story in the Mahabharata where, when that Pandavas had to go on an exile, they had to be in the forest, and at one time they were very thirsty. So there was a water body nearby. So Yudhishthira is asking Bhima, he says, Brata, can you go and get some water from there? So when Bhim reaches the place, a yaksha means a powerful spirit.
Sorry, I don't know that one.
My Alexa woke up randomly. I've been talking
I'm
for...
not quite sure how to help you with that.
See, I've been talking so long, but the moment I said yaksha, my Alexa woke up. So, good. So you should also all wake up now. Become more fresh. Because it's a nice little story that has a powerful message for us. So the yaksha is asking Bhima, he's saying, this water belongs to me and I will let you take the water only if you answer my questions. But you know how Bhim was, the strongest person. He's like, who are you to stop me? I'm going to go get the water. But he didn't realize that that was a yaksha. Means technically it was supposed to be a lot more powerful than any human. And needless to say, Bhima falls down unconscious. And the yaksha pulls him down into the water. Bhima has not returned, so Yudhishthira is a little worried. So he's sending Arjuna. He's saying, Arjuna, go check on Bhima and please get that water. We are all thirsty. Arjuna goes, the same thing. The Yaksha says, I already got your brother. If you want water, you have to answer my questions. Otherwise, you are going to face the same fate. But you know Arjuna was considered the greatest archer. So, see, what is the concept here is how pride comes in the way. So Arjuna was also blinded by the pride, and he's like, who are you to stop me? I'm going to go get the water. And needless to say, he's the next person to faint and be drawn into the water. And likewise, the other two brothers also come. They try, Nakula, Sahadeva, and they think they are the most charming people, but nothing works. So finally, Yudhishthira says, there is something fishy going on, so I need to go check myself. So Yudhishthira goes there, and then the Yaksha says the same thing. The Yaksha says, you have to answer my questions if you have to drink water, and I already have all your other brothers. It is said that Yudhishthira was Dharmaraja, and he was also the wisest among the brothers. So Yudhishthira had the wisdom to understand that he was talking to somebody or something which was much more superior to him. So then he humbly says, can you tell me who you are and what kind of questions you want me to answer? And of course, it is said that Yudhishthira figured that this Yaksha is actually Yama, the Lord of Death himself, and he is there testing all of them. So because he was Lord of Death, it is said that he asked around 60 questions, but the question that is most important here in the context of what we studied so far is the Yaksha is asking, Kim Asharyam, what is the most surprising thing in this world according to you? And then Yudhishthira gives a very beautiful reply. He says, day after day, countless living beings, they die and they go to the kingdom of Yama. Still, people who are alive, they somehow think that they will not die. In other words, everybody thinks death happens only to somebody else. And he says, this is for me the most surprising aspect. So here is where Krishna's teachings comes into play, where Krishna is saying you have to have the awareness that death is certain. There is no point trying to escape that fact. You need to acknowledge, be mindful and accept. At the same time, you don't have to be worried, you don't have to be afraid, because just as death is certain, so is birth. A rebirth is also certain. And the higher truth is, you are neither dying nor being born. What is being born and what is dying is just the material manifestation, but you are already beyond that, higher than that. So you are just an observer, and that is what you need to internalize. In 2.30, Krishna then says that this indweller in the bodies, he says, that is immortal, O Bharata. Therefore, you should not grieve for the loss of any mortal body. The profound word used here is Dehi. Dehi. It's the embodied one. So, the concept is the soul is just using this body temporarily. It is a temporary resident. See, the example we can give is, you can take the example of, say, a light bulb. And when electricity passes through a light bulb, that is when the bulb comes to life. So you can say it is like, birth. Because unless electricity passes, it is just a piece of glass. It becomes a real light bulb only when electricity passing through it. Correct? But let us say you break that bulb. You cannot see light anymore. But have you actually broken the electricity? It's impossible. You cannot touch the electricity, you cannot break electricity. All that is broken is just the medium, the instrument. Just like that, Krishna is saying, this body is just a temporary residence for that energy which we call as the soul. And once the job is done, the soul is going to go get another body, another bulb. So what is the point in grieving? And you are not that glass. When we say you are the bulb, you are actually that electricity which makes something a bulb, which makes something a air conditioner, which makes something a fan. You are that electricity which will never die, is the whole message here. So if all this made sense, I hope none of this felt bouncer. If all this made sense, then we will be spending a few minutes covering something extremely important for our day-to-day lives. Are you all okay to continue? Everybody says they're okay. Awesome. So this is the concept of samskaras and the influence of samskaras in our lives. In one of the previous sessions, I think Previnji was asking. He was asking what happens to the mind, So that is where we said that the mind and your karmic account and the impressions, at that time we used the word impressions that are created on the mind, they all travel from body to body. So they are part of the subtle body. We will come to that later in detail in the future chapters. But when we said impressions, the technical word for that is sanskara. It's a very, very profound, important concept that will explain a lot of our own life to us. So we spoke a little bit about karma, and we spoke about how it impacts birth and death. Now we are going to talk a lot about karma in the next 2 chapters, but before that we have to also understand sanskara, which is also very, very important concept. And sanskaras, we can say, is the basis on which karma grows. So the word samskara itself is derived from the Sanskrit word sam. Sam means complete or connected together, and kara means the cause of action. So every conscious action that we perform, everything I say here, if you can pay attention and internalize, this will probably be one of the most profound learnings for all of us. So every conscious action that we perform creates an impression on our mind. And the bhava or the intent behind the action will determine how strong these impressions are. Making sense? So we do anything that will create an impression on the mind. And that is what is called as sanskara. And then how strong that impression is, that depends on the bhava. That is why in the scriptures it is said that if you have a pure intention, then you will not really have negative karma, because the impression created is negligible or non-existent at all, because your intention is so pure. And the less pure your intentions are, the stronger those impressions become. It's a very, very profound science here. See, for example, as we discussed earlier, there are some people who just can't be happy. I'm sure you have seen such people in your lives. You give them whatever, you can give them the best clothes, you can give them the best food, you can give, but in Hindi, in Hindi movies, there is this dialogue, "Chand mein bhi daag hai," like you can bring the moon and present to somebody, and they will say, but this moon has spots, So what we are trying to say is, we are trying to talk about people who are never able to be happy. Why? That is what the reason given there is sanskaras. Yeah, Soumyaji says journalists. Very true. Paparazzi, the media. Somebody doesn't matter what you do, they will find a conspiracy theory there. So, but the deeper question to ask, it is funny, but the deeper question is as humans, at least in today's world, everybody has free will. You can pretty much study and aspire to be whatever you want to be. What do you think made those people choose the profession of a journalist? That was their sanskara. Why does somebody want to be an artist? Why does somebody want to be a cook? That is the sanskara. Which are the impressions that drive us then. See, it is like this also, you can search and you will find pictures also of it. I don't know if you know the term rut. We use it, it's a rut, we say, we are stuck in a rut. But it's a very colloquial term we use, but it actually originated from the north, where there used to be, the climate used to be extremely cold. And when we say snow and ice, we are talking about like a few feet of snow and ice. And what used to happen is when the cold season begins, the first vehicle that goes across a field creates impressions in the snow. Okay. And then when it gets colder, those impressions are etched very hard on that ice. Okay. Next time somebody travels, they are traveling in that same groove and they cannot get out. They have to stay in the groove until they reach the destination. And that groove is called as rut. That is the actual meaning of when we say, we are stuck in a rut means. But that is what happens with our samskaras. Our samskaras are like those rut. The deeper they get, we create them first. So if you don't pay attention to the samskaras we create, we get stuck in our own rut. And we find it hard to get out of it. That is why this lesson is so important, and that is why this lesson is so empowering, because it is not that somebody else is punishing you by putting you into a bad sanskara. You have created it. So be careful what new sanskaras you are creating now, what new sanskaras you are creating from today, because eventually you are going to be stuck in that rut too. That is the whole message. So that explains when somebody says, "Hey, meri aadat hai," or somebody says, "It's just my habit. I don't know. I can't help." They are partly true. They cannot help because their rut is so deep. Their rut is so hard. Yes, they cannot help. So it's a cycle. Our actions, they create impressions, and the impressions we create dictate our future actions. And all of this are contributing to your karmic account. Now you see how sanskaras and karma, they are all connected. This is how they are all connected. So when you repeat some actions, you are strengthening those impressions. That is why some habits are very, very hard to change. In our culture, they say that what you cannot change when you are 5 years old, you certainly cannot change when you are 50. Or in the West, they say you cannot teach new tricks to an old dog. These are all not just fashionable statements. They are facts. They are spiritual science. But it's not completely true, because if you have the will, if you have the right guidance, and if you are open to investing in your own purification, Krishna has given the complete user manual in Bhagavad Gita, using which no matter how deep our rut is, no matter how hard our rut is, he shows us how we can get out of it and how we can prevent creating any further ruts. Now, what I'm going to tell you is even more profound. What I'm going to tell you is even more interesting, and it may explain a lot of things that you have observed in life and maybe questioned it. Which is the mysterious property of a sanskara? The mysterious property is every sanskara is two-sided. Just like we say every coin has two sides, every sanskara has two sides to it. Even more mysterious, if you experience one side of it, the sanskara will force you to experience the other side also. The universe will force you to experience the other side also. Just like saying, in a battery, you have the positive and the negative, two poles in a battery. But there is no current until both are used. You cannot just use the one side of the battery. You will have to use both. Just like that, even if it is your, electricity in your house, you have to complete the flow. That is a very mysterious and very intriguing aspect of sanskaras. Now, let me tell you why it is so important and so profound. That will explain many things to all of us here. So let us say that you have a sanskara of stealing. Now, do you know what is the opposite of stealing? Opposite of stealing here would be getting stolen from. Okay, opposite of stealing is not stealing. We are talking about impressions. So when you talk about impressions, you have to talk about the experience. So when you say the experience of stealing, what is the opposite of the experience of stealing? It is the experience of being stolen from. So if you have the sanskara of stealing, the universe will ensure that you also experience being stolen from. That is the science. That's a law. You cannot escape from it. Now, why is it so profound? Because we say that, oh, that person stole something, so God is punishing him now. That is why somebody else stole from him. Oh, karma hai. It is not that there is some, moral police sitting in the universe, policing everybody and saying, oh, this person stole means tomorrow somebody will steal from him. No. If you steal today, your own sanskara, your own mind will force you to put yourself in a situation where you will be stolen from, because you have to experience the other side of the sanskara. So your justice system is built into you. That's the beauty. It's a distributed system. Very profound, very, very profound. Just like that, if you have a sanskara of hinsa, sanskara of being violent to others, what will happen? The other side. You will have to experience how it is when somebody is violent to you. So now with this context, now you will appreciate why ahimsa is said to be a virtue. You are not doing the other person a favor by following ahimsa. You are doing yourself a favor. Because if you do hinsa today, tomorrow you will also have to experience that hinsa from somebody else. And today if you choose ahimsa, then you will not have to experience that hinsa on yourself. So by pursuing ahimsa, you are doing a favor to yourself. So that probably now throws a different light on all of these virtues that we talk about. Just like that, if you have a sanskara of lying, don't expect to have a loyal partner. Don't expect to have loyal friends. If you lie, you give in to lying, you will experience being lied to. God doesn't have to sit and make sure that he puts such a person in your life. You will attract a person who is not loyal if you yourself have disloyalty as a sanskara. Very powerful, very profound. We can spend hours talking about this, but for now at least I think this kind of a snapshot helps you. So take care of your thoughts, very important, because your thoughts will take care of your actions, and your actions will take care of your sanskaras. And your sanskaras will take care of your karma. You see how it is. So you cannot just go to a temple and bribe a pujari and try to clean your karmas. It doesn't work like that. There is nothing you can do which can take care of your karma until you work on your sanskaras. And there is nothing you can do to take care of your sanskaras until you take care of your actions. And there is nothing you can do to take care of your actions until you take care of your thoughts. And there is nothing you can do to take care of your thoughts until you practice thinking about God. Because at the end of the day, can you catch your thought? Right now, you're all thinking so many things. Are you able to catch the thought? No, you cannot. But Krishna has given a technique saying substitution. He says, think about me, think of God. Then your thoughts automatically get sorted. Your thoughts get sorted, your actions will get sorted, your sanskaras will get sorted, your karma will get sorted. That is how the science works. I think I already gave the answer. I was going to ask you, based on all of this, what do you think is the most powerful, most effective path to clearing your sanskaras and avoiding karma, bad karma? Okay, Ekansh. Good morning. Yes, Ekansh.
Hare Krishna, Guruji. Bhakti with nishkam, like while doing the bhakti yoga, performing bhakti yoga, you surrender everything to Krishna for
Excellent.
everything else.
Excellent. I think Ekansh got it. Okay, Lakshmiji also wants to say something.
With the bhava,
Yes.
that is also included.
Yes.
The bhakti there. So with the bhava, it will be more effective for me.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. See, that is what I was trying to explain earlier, that when they say that bow down, when they say surrender, you are not doing a favor on God. Okay, मैंने surrender कर लिया, I have surrendered. Yeah, but that's not because you are. No, that is the science. That is the mechanism. Only through surrender can you open up your heart for bhakti, and only through bhakti can you control your thoughts. And we just discussed the whole science that follows after that. So eventually, if you really want to get free from this dukhalayam of janama mrityu jara vyadhi, then the only way is this. So Krishna has given the complete science for this. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna will say that even if the most sinful worships me with undivided attention and focus, they will be deemed righteous because they have resolved. They have been properly situated. It's a very profound. See, this is a fundamental difference between some other religions and Sanatana Dharma. In Sanatana Dharma, there is no condemnation. There is no eternal hell. Sanatana Dharma says, doesn't matter what you have done, doesn't matter what your past has been, doesn't matter what your mindset has been. You can start making a change now, right now, and you can still resolve, you can still become close to God, you can still get liberation. Very powerful message. And the Bhagavad Gita is that manual. That's what the Bhagavad Gita is. So if you want to know how, regardless of what I have been, regardless of what I have done, regardless of how impure I am, if I still have to succeed on the spiritual path and reach God, how do I do that? That is the question which is answered throughout the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is a manual for getting that answer. Very, very assuring. So these 6 verses we covered today, they are like a complete meditation on existence itself. And for Arjuna and for all of us, it is addressing our deepest existential anxiety. As we said in the previous session, we said fear of death. Death is one of the biggest fears. It gives anxiety to people. But once we have this understanding, then there is no more reason for any fear. Fear just dissolves. And instead of fear, it becomes wonder. Instead of fearing death, you start wondering, like, how does this mechanism work? Now your perspective will change. So now imagine Arjuna's condition. Arjuna has heard some very powerful lessons from Krishna, which is directly addressing some of his anxiety. And the commentator will say that at this point, the sun has also climbed higher up in the horizon. So the shadows have shortened. So symbolic of the doubts in Arjuna's mind getting shorter now, getting lesser. And the darkness in his heart is lifting. And Krishna's words, they are working magic. I hope it's working magic in each of your hearts too. And it's kindling something positive. And just like Arjuna, Krishna is trying to prepare all of us for the battle. Not just a battle, the great war that is happening within each one of us. And this is Krishna's preparation. He's preparing us to face it and have victory over it without anxiety, without fear. So when we truly understand that we are eternal, indestructible souls instead of this temporary body, then our perception changes. And we realize that we are not some temporary beings who are seeking immortality. We are not seeking immortality. We are already immortal who have just forgotten that we are immortal. We are already immortal who have just developed attachments to a mortal body. That recognition is going to completely transform not just how we treat death, but also how we treat life. So with that, I think I can stop talking. Hare Krishna. I'll open the floor. If anybody had any comments, questions, this is your opportunity. Okay, Soumyaji.
Momita is laughing. She's laughing already. Okay, my question is, the Nishikam Bhakti, is it towards God or to our passion?
Bhakti is always directed towards God. And towards what you want to do, your work, you can have a passion, but devotion is always for that Supreme. But the point is, Krishna will very beautifully say that why don't you see my presence in that what you are doing? Why don't you see my presence in whatever you are passionate about, so that it transforms into devotion automatically? Like if you are, say, a dancer, you are passionate about dancing, but if you can say that I am dancing for Krishna, then that becomes food for devotion even there. So net, everything can transform into devotion. Vikas ji, you had a question?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Guruji. I'm logged in from my mobile, so my camera is still not fixed. Huh? So I'm sorry you
I
can't see
thought
me.
you have also become, like the soul we just discussed, avyaktaha, we cannot see you.
Yeah. So sorry about that. I'll get it fixed.
No problem.
So my question was, while you said, okay, the way that we can avoid karma is we keep our mind focused on God whenever we are doing any action, correct? But then, this may be because there is already some past karma and past samskaras, because of which, like, say, for example, one tends to get very angry, or one tries to explain once or twice, and then third time it kind of whether you, even if you don't want to, you still kind of end up hurting the other person's feeling, or you tend to put it out in such a way that it kind of hurts the other person, so
Okay.
that kind of a thing. And then you have thoughts like like you said, why is this happening to me, which you said, like, it is because of some past karma.
Yes.
So it is like maybe you have done something in the past knowingly, unknowingly, but now you are kind of you're kind of having that experience, correct, which is not something that you deserve, or you feel that you don't deserve. So how do you kind of come to terms with that? So is it like, okay, it is one thing that, okay, you try to surrender to God, you try to kind of think about him, and then let him take it the best course in that sense of it, but it is easier said than done. So any practical tips or ways on how to kind of navigate this turmoil?
Okay. So again, I'm going to tell you that I can, based on the question, your question is framed in such a way that you probably want a logical answer. There's a devotional answer too, but logical answer is definitely you have to come to the understanding that everything is your prarabdha. That may sound harsh, but that is a fact. No matter what situation you are going through now, there is a temptation to blame the world, to blame your circumstance, blame the other person. I'm not saying the other person is not at wrong. Yes, they may have pretty much been in the wrong, but still, why are you in the receiving end? That is prarabdha. So we definitely have to acknowledge. So that you have already done. So you said that, I realized maybe I did something in the past, my karma. So that part is taken care of. That's a difficult part. The second part, how do I deal with it, right? So, as I said, the devotional answer is, it starts with ananya chintan and all of that. But a logical answer I will give you, this answer I have given earlier also, is, it's again, I'm trying to empower you. So I'm not blaming you or anything. So bear with me. So let us say a 2-year-old child stands in front of you and says that, aap pagal ho, or you are crazy. Wouldn't you laugh it off? Yes, you are laughing it off. You are happily laughing. You are considering it like so funny, this child just called. But now assume your wife calls you or tells that you are crazy. No, you are not laughing now. Why? Because what was said was the same thing. So why is it that when a child said you could laugh, but when your wife says you couldn't laugh, you are now hurt? Why? Because when a child said, you assumed that you are infinitely more mature than this child, or in other words, you are not taking it personally. But when your wife says, you believe it, because she knows you well, na? So you believe it, and you take it personally. And when we say you take it personally, what aspect of you is that? That is the aspect which is called out as pride, ahankar. That is what it is. And that is the biggest illusion. Because who is getting insulted? When you say I feel hurt, when you say I feel insulted, who is that I? Now, if you can introspect on that, that is what these 6 slokas were all about. Right? That I is so subtle, that I is so supreme that it is, if you think a 2-year-old is, immature and you don't have to take it to heart, the most elevated human is still a child in front of that supreme. And if you realize that you are that supreme, then no entity on this planet can make you feel hurt. So that is the logical answer. That is why if you now look at Mahabharata, Vidurji is trying to advise Krishna. Vidurji tells Krishna that Krishna, I really don't think you should go to that court as a Shanti Dut. Because in my opinion, you know how Duryodhana is, he's only going to insult you. He's only going to talk bad about you. And Krishna's response is very profound. Krishna says, don't worry Vidura, nobody can insult me. But it is not out of arrogance, it is based on this science. If a 2-year-old child cannot insult you, just like that, no mortal can insult that supreme, because he is infinitely so supreme. And if you identify with that, instead of identifying with this temporary body, then no matter what your wife or anybody else says, you can analyze it, you can act on it, but you don't have to feel hurt by it. So I hope this answer makes sense. Vikasji?
Yes, Guruji, I think spot on. So thank you so much. It helped me put it in a very actionable and in a very simple way. So thank you so much.
Most welcome, most welcome. And I don't have the samskara of getting angry just because somebody asked me questions. So don't worry. You can ask as many questions as you want. Okay. So I hope all this makes sense. And I think today we have had some very profound learnings. Let us end the day with contemplating on Radharani again and her love, her devotion. And tomorrow let us again make some, let us make some resolve. Maybe let us add something extra to our spiritual practice and make a promise to Radharani and keep the promise. That way I think that is the best way to celebrate her or any other festival for that matter. So with that, I will stop and looking forward to seeing you all in the next session. Hare Krishna.